And yeah, for me, like a lot of the bands that I was working with, I was just their Photoshop guy. Their ideas are great. Like there's people that go out there, they'll do that for you. But if you want to work with any artist, you're working with someone. You're not working with a tool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you got to respect the integrity of the artist, the creativity of the artist. And honestly, in my opinion, I think that comes out way better than forcing somebody to create for you. And it's more collaborative. It's more mixture of the artistic talent of the artist and your own ideas and sort of feeds your album.
Welcome to Metalworx Tales from the Forge, where I invite the sickest artists and designers in the world of metal to come and share their secrets. My guest today is the fantastic Caelan Stokkermans, an incredible artist blending the painterly skills of Renaissance masters with the dark subject matter of everything we love in metal. Caelan has worked his wizardry, bringing you some of the most iconic album art, logo designs and merch designs in the world of contemporary heavy music, working with the likes of Lorna Shore, The Acacia Strain, Distant, Cattle Decapitation, and many, many more. How are you doing, Caelan? Thank you for jumping on, my friend. What is up?
Hey man, thanks for having me.
So can you tell us a little bit about your background in art and how you first got interested in illustration?
So initially, I started out in high school doing like music production. And from there, once I kind of figured out I sucked at it, I got into like graphic design and stuff because like I would always like do little doodles and stuff and in high school and like study hall or whatever. And one day one of my friends saw something I was drawing for like a local band just for fun, and he was like, "You should show that to the band. I'm sure they would love to use it for something." And they ended up using it for actually their album cover. And so that kind of gave me a bit of a push into the industry. And then from there, I just started made like logos and just like photo bash together like album covers and stuff, and would post it in like Facebook forums and whatnot.
Community of metal designers.
And, yeah. Well, this is actually way before that.
Okay.
I feel like I'm old now with like 2010 to 2015, like doing that time. So it was like the Gent. I don't know if you're part of the Gent. Like
I never really was. No.
Yeah. So like a lot of stuff like that. Just like today's, I mean, it's a lot more different. Like you gotta TikTok and Instagram and all those. But yeah, so that's kind of how I got my start, and then from there it just sort of grew. I sort of did it on the side. I never really did it like seriously, just kind of fun little hobby thing. Yeah, and then I did it throughout college. It would be like something that pay for going out with friends and magic cards and stuff.
Hell yeah, your fun money.
Yeah, fun money. Yeah, exactly. And then I always started doing this like really like seriously. In the last couple of years of my master's program, or my last year, my master's program, and then the past 2 or 3 years. So.
Okay, so you studied music production and then you did a master's in something else, was it?
So music production I just did for fun.
Okay.
I actually went to school for marketing.
Okay. That's very interesting because it's often times an overlooked skill in this sort of industry that we find ourselves in, the whole marketing side of things.
Yeah. I didn't really have like a formal art education. I thought about going to art school. I have friends who went to art school, but I don't know. It just wasn't. I felt like it would sort of kill my joy for art because it was just like something I did for fun.
It definitely sucks it out of you a bit. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have like a lot of mates like still involved in like music, like playing in bands and like different like rappers and stuff. And they say the hardest thing about it is that like now you have to be your own marketer, like your own manager. You touched on like TikTok and like promoting yourself and stuff. It's the same with us, isn't it?
It kind of just sort of fit when I went into business because a lot of things I was doing for my own like company was things that I ended up learning again in my undergrad. So
was there like a certain trigger, or was there like something, an event or like a band or like album artwork or something that you saw that made you be like, shit, this is what I want to do? Or was there like something that made you jump to go full time? Like
when I was younger, I got into metal mostly through like metalcore. So like they would have those big graphic t-shirts that were done by like Dan Mumford.
Yeah, Dan Mumford like everywhere.
Yeah. So honestly, his work was like just the intricacy of his like, sort of line work and color and stuff really sort of brought me into wanting to do that myself. So I mean, that was like a big influence when I was younger. But yeah, I mean, sort of just having people actually be just interested in my work was like a big reason that pushed me towards this. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there was like besides the one kind of sketch I did when I was in high school for that local band that they picked up and used for an album cover. There wasn't like a kind of trigger point that really was like, yeah, I want to do this. It was just kind of something I fell into.
Yeah.
It was music related. I could do something that was sort of, decent at and people appreciated. So yeah.
So it was like a natural sort of, you went from, oh, this is fun, I enjoy doing this. This is my, hangout money while like studying, to just naturally it kind of snowballed. And before you realized, you were like, oh God, I'm actually going hard with this. Like this is what I do now.
Yeah. I mean, especially after I graduated, because I was going to go into like some marketing job and just kind of do marketing and then keep doing freelance as like a side thing. But
yeah,
I had like a sort of break period of like a year doing my master's program and then, trying to find a job. And I was just doing like freelance full time. And yeah, I mean, all the jobs I'd apply to, I would show them my portfolio of art. And then the whole time they just talk about my art. It wouldn't be like anything about the job. They'd just be like, yeah, so this is like really cool that you do that. Like, how did you get into it? Basically kind of like, interview or whatever, except like this. And then they would ask me like at the end, they'd be like, so what's your dream job? And be like, what I'm doing now,
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, and then, working at Unique Leader, Jamie, gave me that position because I was still looking for something within the music industry. And that kind of was the perfect fit because it helped give me a regular income.
Exactly.
Still give me the time to be able to pursue freelance. So,
yeah. So that was like, you knew you had like a certain amount of jobs per month to do. You had a certain amount of income per month to do. You still had time to take on, say, other freelance jobs as they come. Like it was pretty good setup, was it? That just kind of gave you the ability to go whole hog with it. Like,
yeah, definitely. I mean, I make decent amount doing freelance, but I'm sure doing freelance is a really difficult sort of thing to do because you don't really know where your money's going to be coming at the end of the month. And when you have like set bills and stuff, it's like, well, shit,
Yeah, the bills are always the same, but the income can vary quite differently, can't it?
Yeah, which is just especially the first like couple months that I was doing that, and that not having like a regular income was just really hard.
And how long ago was that? Was that like mid 2010s or was it like more recent than that?
So I started Unique Leader about 2 years ago now.
Okay, so quite recent, yeah.
So my sort of timeline is, I got into it in high school. So about 8 years of like high school and then my college career. So that's kind of like part-time. Then I did my master's, was doing it more full-time. And then after I graduated my master's, about 3 years ago, I started doing freelance full-time. So.
Wow. So it is quite recent, like you've gone like freelance full-time for the last, say, 3 years.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a lot of self-reflection to be like, can I do this?
Yeah.
It's going to work for me. But, and I mean, having those like 8 years of building it up really helped. I mean, I think if I tried to start doing freelance full-time
straight away
without like that previous experience,
there's no way. Yeah, I was even speaking to Shindy about it. Like, you don't realize when you're like involved like in local music and you're like doing work for, say, like local bands or like your own music projects and stuff, you actually build up so much sort of skills and like a network of like clients and stuff, that the internet works very well, but like when you're like involved at such like a grassroots level, you don't even realize this like network that's building up, and then that really helps when you finally want to go like full time with it. It's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I had kind of a weird way of starting up. I mean, the way that I actually started getting clients was I created this compilation of like bands that I followed on Twitter, my own project at the time.
Yeah.
And it had early Enterprise Earth on it.
Oh, sick.
I met Dan and like I think BJ was the guitarist, a bunch of other random bands. Enterprise Earth is probably the most notable. But I sort of put together a compilation on like I think it was SoundCloud or something, and then a bunch of those bands would start hitting me up for work.
That's so handy, like, because that's it really is the best way to do it. Like I do get asked, like I've got like the Scrap Heap Discord server, which is kind of like a lot of the subscribers in the channel jump in there and they share their own art and stuff, and that's a question that comes up time and time again. How do I get clients? Like, how do I do I like cold call people? Do I reach out that way? And I always say it's just do what you love. Get involved with the music that you love, you know, whether it's like putting compilations together, playing tunes, you know, there's so many ways. Like, that's fascinating. But if you don't mind, I've got my next question here is kind of deviating a little bit away from how you got into the art, and it's more about your art itself. Because so before I studied visual communications, like graphic design, before I studied that, I got an undergrad in ancient and medieval history, and I done 2 years 2 years of art history as an elective, like from the Gothic era through the Renaissance up to early modern. And like the amount of influence I see from, like, say, the Dutch masters, or even just like that era, like Renaissance era, or even like Baroque, you know, a lot of that like crazy subject matter, the anatomy, the moody style of it. Like, where did that come into your art? Because it's even down to your brush strokes. I notice, like, in a lot of, say, your album artwork, the central figure or focus will be like rendered in very high detail, but then say the distance, like the clouds or like background, will be these like beautiful gestures and like brush strokes that is super reminiscent of as I said, the Dutch school or that kind of style. Like, where did that kind of come into your work?
Yeah, so my cultural background is my mom is from India, my dad's from the Netherlands, actually. So growing up, I kind of got this interesting sort of mix of European and sort of Indian beliefs.
Sick. Yeah.
So my work has a lot of influence from both of those. So, you know, it has a lot to do with mythology and like deities and stuff, which come from the Indian sort of side, and then the European influence, the painting style. So my style is, you know, like you said, is influenced a lot by Baroque paintings by the old masters, stuff like that. And then the content is a lot of mythological, occult, sort of, you know, mysticism type. So my process is the same as if I was painting traditionally. I do digitally just because it's easier to for like client work and stuff, and updates and whatnot. It's kind of the medium I've learned in. So, but yeah, it's the same as if I was painting traditionally. So, you know, I start with the sketch, you know, do another painting, you know, same canvas, and then I go through and I paint section by section, you know, background, foreground.
Oh yeah. And is that like, do you use like Photoshop, or do you say iPad for Procreate, or?
So I use Photoshop. I have a CT tablet, and then
nice.
Photoshop.
Yeah.
I have Procreate. That's like, you know, I'll use that for sketching or whatever.
Yeah, just like chill on the couch, do your sketch, and then bounce the image over to the PC, and then you can do the finished version with Photoshop and your Cintiq.
Yeah. I try to incorporate some traditional methods too. So I'll start my initial sketch, you know, like as a pencil drawing, whatever. It's just, so, you know, I kind of not just board paint just one, you know, sort of spot or medium.
Yeah, because I've seen like a lot of your, say, more so your merch designs, you have those like really awesome like etching style, almost like Albrecht Dürer, the cross hatching and really kind of like deliberate line work. Is that, say, traditional? Like, would you do that pen and paper, or?
So I can't do the pen and paper. Once again, I also do it digitally just because, like, it's easy to, you know, then add the additional elements that I need to, and kind of for me, kind of using traditional allows a little bit more creative workflow because I can change things, you know,
of course,
a bunch of like adjustments. It's also the same thing as if I was doing it on pen and paper.
It's like, it's so interesting. It's like you could probably achieve the same result, but just purely for accessibility and how easy it is to do like multiple variations or bounces to send clients, you know, the glory of Control-Alt-Z to undo. Yeah. Would you ever use, say, like a photo reference? Like, I know you don't photo bash in your work, but would you say like have a reference from like, say, an old like classical or Renaissance piece and say use that for posing, or is it all just like straight out of your head?
I wish it was straight out of my head. No, I'm not that good. A lot of it is I'll find pose like references online. I do photography, so I'll take my own like photo reference for things. A big portion of it is also just a visual library. You know, so in my studio, I have a huge like shelf filled with just books on, you know, everything, you know, I potentially need. Or, you know, want to reference. I'll do old master studies. So I'll, you know, do like painting study of the old masters, or sometimes I even incorporate it into my work. Like I'm probably working at a painting for one band that I'm actually just, doing a master study of the actual painting.
Okay.
And then, just adding my own to it.
So how would you do a master study with that? Is that just, for lack of a better term, like dismantling a piece and like their workflow and recreating that yourself, like following similar steps, or would it be like taking colors or stuff like that?
A mix of both.
Yeah.
For the most part, when you see an old master's band, you kind of just see the surface level.
Mm.
So a lot of it is just learning how they got to that point, and then sort of just, following that same process as the old masters would do. So like, doing another painting and then, like painting on top of that. But yeah, so I'll do a master study and then, I'll kind of follow the same similar process, and then I'll just, sort of copy whatever the colors are and whatever their strokes. Try to kind of learn how they did what they did and how their techniques created their style, and then just sort of apply to my own style.
Yeah, that's so sick. Made me think of, did you see, like, over the last, like, what, I don't know, 20, 30 years, they've been, like, infrared photography or photographing these, like, old paintings from, the Renaissance era and stuff, and you can see the multiple layers on multiple versions of, like, say, like, Michelangelo, like, or someone, like, painted a thing, but had, like, 4 different hand poses, or, they do, like, their base sketch and build it up and then change, like, the way the eyes are looking or something like that. We see them on face value, the finished piece, and be like, that's the way it was always meant to be. But only nowadays can we see that they were working, like, in the same sort of way, like building up layers and seeing how it goes. It's fascinating, man.
Yeah. For me, like, that's the biggest thing, is that going back to what the core of something is, like, at least as far back as you can go without it being, cave paintings or whatever. But yeah, so like for me, like, because the biggest part of what I want to sort of create is not have it look like anybody else's, like not have it look like, anything within the sort of industry that I'm in, sort of having my own style.
Yep.
So for me, it's very important to kind of find things that are outside of the genre and incorporate it into my work. So following the process of, like, the old masters, and or like, following a process that you normally wouldn't see in, like, digital painting, digital like artwork or whatever it is like, so that's then my my thing.
Yeah. Or, like, would you find, is there, what other sort of mediums would you draw inspiration from? Do you play, like, video games, or, like, read manga or graphic novels or any of that sort of thing?
I do actually read manga. My girlfriend's a fiend for it, though. A lot of this is hers. but yeah, I mean, like, I'm a huge Berserk fan.
Oh yes,
Berserk, a lot of like medieval sort of dark fantasy stuff. Huge Souls fan, so I just finished my second run through Elden Ring.
Oh,
So
good on you! Second run through.
Yeah, I've, like, done, like, at least must be like 300 hours of that game. Nuts, but
But
a lot of, like, sorry.
No, it's just like, I think a lot of people overlook that, like, you can get so much inspiration from other sort of art forms or mediums. Like, if you want to work in the heavy metal industry and you only look at, like, other heavy metal artists or designers or that sort of thing, like, you're sort of at risk of becoming typecast or your style not really blending in. And I think it's very important what you said there, like, of you're striving to have your own mark, your own identity, and not being afraid to look at, like, stuff outside the box. You know what I mean? Like, and really, you're putting out such fresh looking stuff. And it's gotten to the stage, I'll see something just pop up on Instagram, and instantly I'm like, oh, that's Caelan. You know what I mean? Like, I just know straight away. Like, and that's like, it's so hard to do. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, especially nowadays, where I feel like with the internet, like, social media and stuff, it's so easy to access so much, like, stuff out there.
Yeah.
And I feel like, not throwing again the whole thing, but AI and everything, nowadays it's so saturated.
Yeah.
That creating a certain style that sets you apart from everything is very difficult. Like, even now, I'm still developing my style, still learning, trying to figure out what I want to say. And there's, like, artists I feel like that spend their entire life and not able to find style. So yeah. So I mean, it's I feel like a big part of it is definitely finding things that are not in the sort of field you're working in, I mean, personally, I find it, like very interesting when like listening to music or whatever. When you get like an artist or whatever that's outside the genre and does something within our genre, or like you have an artist that's within our genre doing stuff that incorporating elements from outside of our genre.
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of really sets you apart instead of just being like the band that does the same like 20 other bands. Same thing,
Like copy and paste albums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other Black and Deathcore band sounds like.
Yep. Yeah, I'm big into hardcore. Like, I love it. That's the scene I kind of came from, and hardcore bands are so guilty of that. It's gotten to the stage that it's like the same 10 riffs have just been regurgitated, by like 1,000 bands. But yeah, I honestly have to say, even with your logo work, I'll see a logo and know straight away it's you, because of it's almost like I'm so guilty of like being in the 1-2 of like the lasso tool and like spiky bits and stuff like that. But I notice in your logo work, you're a lot more focused on a very deliberate brush stroke. And you, like, when I dissect your logo work, it's like it almost looks like it's not done with a paintbrush, but you know what I mean? Like, you're able to capture like really solid like letter forms, like everything is well balanced, like the negative spaces there, but you do it so differently from the 1,000 other metal logo designers, you know what I mean? And that in itself like sort of sets you apart as well. So how would you tackle a logo?
So for me, actually, logos are one of the harder things for me to do.
Same. They just take so long.
That, and I just never really learned what goes into like typography design. That's something I'm trying to change now. Learn more about sort of like font spacing and all that stuff. But which, I mean, I guess I knew. But for me, it's a lot of organic, sort of like approach to logos. So I will like the most important thing I think is the shape of the logo, but like and in some ways readability, but deathcore or death metal logos, so
yeah.
But yeah, so I'll kind of approach it. I'll like design a shape, so I'll kind of like sketch in like sort of like how I want the shape to look,
like the silhouette, like
I'll sort of yeah, sort of like, so kind of like the outline, sort of like so like if you sort of wrapped up logo like a present or whatever, so the outline of like what the wrap will be
exactly,
like, what the shape would be.
Yes, yeah.
So for me, that's kind of the most important part, is kind of making a very iconic shape. Because like if you look at, for example, like I'm looking at the Mayhem logo across the room in a vinyl, for me, you instantly know that's the Mayhem logo because like of the shape,
Yeah.
But not because like the individual letters, So for me, that's a big part of it. It's just the shape and to make it iconic that way. And then I mean, I also make my logos. I know this is like a logo designer like worst thing to do or whatever, but I'll do it in Photoshop and then I'll vectorize it Illustrator. But for me, the reason why I do that is because I get a very organic brush strokes. I like use a calligraphy pen that I've built in Photoshop. So as if I'm like using
okay, yeah. And don't worry, I honestly don't know how people could really use Illustrator to get that like organic look. If someone watching this knows how, like, let us know. But I think I'm the same with you. I like all logo work, like, just for me, starts in Photoshop, ends in Photoshop, and then I'll like vectorize it with Illustrator. I unless it's, say, like a very like regimented and rigid like thrash metal or like synth style logo, that I can build up with shapes. But anything that's remotely organic and gritty, like it's Photoshop all the way. But you touched there a little bit on AI. This is not really a question I've asked anybody yet. Like, what are your thoughts on the deluge of AI art that's currently absolutely flooding the internet and destroying Instagram?
Yeah. So that's a whole conversation for me. But I feel like So when AI art first came out, it was a little bit like a joke.
Yeah.
This is like no, this is not going to become anything. So I think it was a lot. It was also a lot like a new artist sort of came on the scene because it had that kind of very still unique sort of look to it. Because it was like a bunch of fractals with like
dreamlike almost.
Yeah. It still looked awful. I mean, but like I think for me the point it kind of became scary was when it updated, and then they got the versions that could literally imitate other artists. But for me, I mean, at that point it was really scary for me because I was like, I think it was actually with summer when that sort of like happened. And everyone was using like, AI and like all that stuff. But I don't know. For me, I'm mostly talking about this personally because like I know there's like huge like contention between people who use AI art.
Yeah, I'm going on the record like I don't use it at all. Like I'm not interested. I use stock imagery, but I pay for it all, and I want the user, or not the user, the creator of that, be reimbursed for their 3D models, or you know what I mean? Like it's an ethical thing for me, and I like to create stuff that I'm in control of creating. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, the biggest thing for me was just the ethical, use of it. It's just that you're literally stealing copyrighted stuff, and bashing it in. I mean, I had like a really like sort of not great experience with it because I had a pretty big band that I worked with, where I did an album cover for it, and they said they were happy with it and everything. At the end of it, I didn't really hear anything from that, and then they like released like artwork from it, and it was a bunch of AI rendered stuff. And it turned out the band, I guess, it wasn't exactly what they're looking for because they had paid so much money for it. They didn't want to like hire a new artist or whatever, or like hire me again. So they ended up putting the artwork into an AI filter.
Oh no!
Other artists, I just like re-rendering my artwork into a different sort of like. And so for me, that was like, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like it's like the worst thing you possibly could do to someone.
Yeah.
So that kind of really made me hate it.
Yeah, that's awful, mate. That's like, I've never heard anything that shitty before. Oh, yeah, so they literally put your piece into something like probably Stable Diffusion or something. Is it that you can like upload an image into?
Yeah, because I could tell because like the subject matter of the paint for the re-rendered version was the same thing that I had painted. Kind of see like little bits of like painting that I'd done in it. So it was just it was not like very good experience. And for me, it was I hit like a very depressed state because it was like, I was like, why am I doing this? Like, this people could just throw in like prompts and create crap like that. So I don't know. For me, it was like I kind of came out of it being like, well, you know what, the stuff that's coming out is super generic, and instead of being like being depressed by this, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to push my style, what I want to do, and to reinvent my work to become something that's just me, and, using whatever the ideas of the dance. And I mean, honestly, I came out of it much better, from the whole AI like craze. Thankfully, AI seems to be like
sort of petering out a bit.
Yeah, it seems to be going the same way for like NFTs and stuff, which is kind of expected considering the huge like flashback from the art community. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think AI in general is just it's not very creative. I think it's the years of time that you put into generate like creating your own style and work and technique is what defines an artist. Not like plugging a prompt into the computer and having that essentially steal people's work and create it. That being said, I also think it is an interesting tool for like inspiration, like random generation of ideas. I don't think it should be used for commercial, just because of the whole like ethical issues and yeah. I mean, I don't think AI. I think the tech industry in general is just AI craze right now. I think AI is definitely within the next couple of years we'll really see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you there on the point that like it is like an interesting tool as long as say you're using, so I think like Adobe's AI is all trained on Adobe stock, so that stock has all been paid for. And if you say you're using that and you're just using say Adobe AI to generate like a composition or like maybe like a colorway or something, you know what I mean, for like a piece that then you're gonna like create from scratch, you know, I think that's pretty cool. But I've seen my Instagram feed has been like inundated with just like people taking like an AI render, putting a few filters on it and putting like some typography on it, you know, and then selling it for a couple $100 like dollars. It's like you know, it's like, come on, like everything just looks the same now, you know. But I think you're right. It could just be a fad, and it'll sort of peter out naturally. You know, it's just a craze that the tech bros are into right now.
Yeah, and I think as long as I think for all the people who are doing that, I think kind of you look exactly like everybody else is doing.
Yeah,
you know? It's not your unique thing. So you know, if you really want to set yourself aside instead of just making a couple bucks, you know, set yourself as an artist, you know, using that is not going to do that for you.
Yeah.
Discover your own style and learning how to create that is what's going to set you aside. You know?
10,000 hours makes a master, you know, the old saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, moving on, the next question I have here, which I'm kind of interested in getting your take on, is like, have you ever faced any creative blocks or periods of, say, artistic stagnation? And if so, like, how do you overcome these sort of challenges? Like, you know, is there like, do you have like a go-to to sort of get yourself out of a rut kind of thing?
Yeah. So kind of going back to what I said about over the summer, I mean, with the whole AI craze, that was I had a big artistic block. It's mostly when I feel like my work is not being valued, or if so what I'm trying to say is not being valued. It's usually when I hit an artistic block. But for me, what I usually do is I just kind of figure out ways to reinvent myself, I guess you could say. So if I'm like, all right, so this is not really working, or like, you know, what I'm trying to say is not working, usually I'll be like, okay, I'm going to go back and relearn the basics, or I'm going to learn something new about what I'm trying to do. And which is the amazing thing about art is that there's always new things to learn, you know, it's such a huge wide variety of like techniques and things to learn. So yeah, I mean, usually also if I'm feeling an artistic block, sometimes there's like a personal issue in my life. So I'll go and I'm going to deal with that personal issue and then come back to this. Or if I'm getting like burnt out, after, you know, years of doing this, I kind of have a process of making sure I don't get burnt out, you know. So I don't have a set time or this time to this time during the day. As soon as I leave my studio, I don't think about anything
Nice.
related or artwork related. I'll play video games. I'll, you know, read a book. I'll, you know, hang with my girlfriend or whatever. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. Like, I feel like if you're really hitting an artistic block, like, you know, the biggest thing is just kind of figuring out what is stopping you. You know, is it the fact that you're bored with what you're creating? You know, like if you're, I don't know, you've been painting mechs or something, like, or doing anime art for like 10 years or something, and all of a sudden you wake up one day, you're like, well, I need this. No, I don't want to do this anymore. Then, you know, forcing yourself to do it instead of being like, okay, you know, I want to draw horses. You know, it's probably why you're hitting an artistic block, you know? So yeah, so I think those are some things. So yeah, basically just, you know, kind of figure out what you want to say, you know, figure out if what you're doing is no longer what you want to say or do. Kind of constantly learning new things is a good thing, and just setting aside time to do things that are not art related, you know, like avoid burnout.
Yeah, mate,
Yeah,
like go for, use it almost like as fuel to sort of like, you know, get a new plan of attack and go from there, sort of thing. Like, just to take time to clear the head, but like, you know, replan like which angle you're going to take, kind of thing, and hit the ground running again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and constantly look up, like I was talking about, you know, finding things outside the genres, you know, constantly looking for things that are not within the field that you're working in. So you're constantly getting new ideas that are, because like if you look at the same thing every day, anyone's gonna get bored.
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you kind of need to. Well, I personally need to remind myself that this is like my livelihood. This is my job. At the end of the day, I have to do it. But like I get burnt out like loads, especially trying to do like YouTube videos on top of the ones that where I like record my process and then like edit them and then like voiceover. Like those videos take so much time, and sometimes when I finish like my client work, I'm just like, oh, I just like can't be arsed. Like I cannot like bring myself to do this today. But then, as you said, like I kind of just take, say, just an evening just like watching like anime. Like I've been watching One Piece for like 2 years. I'm only halfway through. You know what I mean? So I'll just like, I'll just make some nice food. Like that's kind of a thing I do as well. My partner doesn't cook, so like I kind of like, I'm like a little wizard in the kitchen, making all these potions and stuff. And I find that also sort of helps me like get my head back sort of reset, rather than banging your head off a wall, just been stuck trying to, I kind of find as well, like when I force myself to push out work, it never ends up being like as good as it could be, and that's, I find that's like unfair on the clients, number one, but it's also, we have to be conscious of like the work we put out, because our name is on it at the end of the day, like you don't know who is going to see it. And if you're not 100% happy with it, tough luck, because if you put it out there, it's going to be reflected onto you, you know what I mean? But I think it's very, very valuable what you're saying there, that to really clear your head, get a new angle, take some time to sort of not push out stuff that's going to be subpar because you're not feeling it, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, especially for us who are, freelance artists who basically are taking, not really creating for ourselves for the most part, creating for like a client.
Yeah.
That's another thing that's, for me, I was running into the issue where I was creating things that were for the client. I was just taking client's ideas, executing it. And this also once again touches with AI, but I started feeling like an AI, generator.
Yeah, just a robot.
Yeah. And so that was a big part of me also reinventing myself, was that I was like, instead of doing, so I'll still do with the client, like ideas or whatever, but
of course, yeah.
I'll no longer take, like, if a client comes to me and they're like, okay, we want like a giant demon thing, and we want the colors to be like this, and we want like 20 people in front of the demon thing, like tombstones. I'll be like, no, dude, I'm not, like, that's not
too busy.
Give me some words. That's not going to work. It's not something I want to do. It's not me creating, it's you.
Yeah. So
I'll be like, I'll ask for like lyrics or like something like that, and be like, I'll come up with something that's like, my idea. Still obviously respecting the client and and their ideas as well. But and for me that's really worked well. Like I have like all the people that I work with are great. Very accepting of my ideas. And if I don't have somebody who's like that, then I'm just not going to work with you. Like I have plenty of other people with me doing my thing. So that's very important. I feel like freelance artists is that make sure that what you're still doing, you're doing client work, it's still coming from you. It's still your voice in it, and it's not just you creating something for someone. Because it's a really easy way to get burnt out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought it was very interesting you said there about the lyrics thing, because that's exactly what I do as well. Like I love to say, like, get a band to say, they're like, okay, we want like, we're merch design, we want it like 4-panel, blah blah blah, and give me the meat and potatoes of it, and then say like, oh, this is our idea and all, and I'll be like, okay, I like your idea, but like, have you got any lyrics like in your, like, say your hit song or like just through the album that you really like send them to me. And then I love that, because it's like you're kind of like putting a little like puzzle or like a story together, like whether it could be like some character you come up with, or like in your case, like, you probably create these like incredible scenes like out of like a few good lines of lyrics. Like I think it's a really cool way of doing it.
Yeah, because like for me, I'm a very visual person, so like reading the lyrics, because I read a lot too, so reading lyrics, I'll usually get an image in my head and okay, and I'll put it down. And yeah, for me, like, especially, I was running into that issue, like, when I started doing this full time, where a lot of the bands that I was working with, I was just their Photoshop guy. It's like, no, I don't, like, your ideas are great, like, there's people that go out there, they'll do that for you, but for me, if you want to work with me, if you want to work with any artist, you're working with someone. You're not working with a Photoshop tool. You're not working with a tool. So, you got to respect the integrity of the artist, the creativity of the artist. And honestly, in my opinion, I think that comes out way better than if you're trying to come up with some idea that you're then forcing somebody to create for you. That it's more collaborative. It's more you're getting something that it's a mixture of the artistic talent of the artist and your own ideas and sort of themes of your album.
And did you find it it was something you learned along the way, or did you get fed up someday and be like, no, let's meet halfway here? You're coming to me because you want me to do this work for you. I'm just thinking in terms of the subscribers that'll be watching this, who are just getting into, maybe they've got their first couple of commissions working with art with bands or whatever. Did you find that was something you learned eventually, or it was one day you just were like, okay, I'm putting my foot down?
It was definitely something I learned eventually. So it's, as an artist starting out, you're definitely gonna have to deal with that shit. I mean, I definitely dealt with it. It's kind of just something of most artists starting out. You don't really have that background, the sort of, I won't say integrity, but the kind of, mostly the background that, as an established artist, I can kind of do this because I have a large base of clients and I have people that I can say no to, and I can, be like, well, you can see all this work that I've done. If you want something like this, that's what I'll create for you. When you're a starting out artist, it's more you kind of have people being like promotional work. Or, or being like, I want some ridiculous theme that's not really something you're usually going to do, but you need the money or you need the cloud or whatever it is. So I do understand that as a starting out artist. One way to combat that, I think, is to kind of really figure out what your voice is, or at least figure out a unique voice that you want to do from the beginning. Stick with it, even if people, because people will still come to you. I think even more so if you have the unique, less so, I feel like, especially nowadays with AI art, less so if you're just doing whatever they want you to do. So
print machine goes burr kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think as well, people are coming to you because, even for someone just starting out, someone is in your DMs because they like the look of what you've got on your Instagram or wherever they're contacting. So I really think you're so right, Caelan, that they're coming to you for you. You're almost like a consultant in a way, that they say, okay, this is our idea, blah blah blah, but at the end of the day, you can also say that might work, that might not work. Let's kind of meet halfway, and spitball at them and give them a few ideas as well. Maybe they just come to you with the first thing off the top of their head. Yeah,
because especially in our industry, because it's a creative industry, you wouldn't go to an architect or something, or some build a building and be like, okay, and tell them how to build a building.
Micromanage something
Yeah, exactly.
Be like the house in The Simpsons.
Exactly. Yeah. You're gonna go to them and be like, hey, I want you to build me a house. And they're like, okay, what do you want it to look? And then they build the foundation, they build the art, or build the house based off their, experience and techniques. It's the same thing with art, even though it might be creative media and, it's self-expression, you're still coming to someone with your ideas for them to ask. So,
yep. Yeah. 100%. Totally agree. So on my next little list of questions here, is there any notable collaborations or projects that you've worked on within the heavy metal industry that have been particularly memorable or impactful for you? And I just have to say, I know at least half of the people that are watching this have seen your artwork out there. You've done some seriously memorable and iconic things already. But any ones that jump out for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been asked this question before. For me, each project is kind of unique, so each one is kind of a unique approach to it. But I'll definitely say, working with Vincent at DK Strain for Slow Decay.
That's so beautiful. I love that.
You.
Yeah,
they They are a lot of fun to work with, especially because they always come up with like very unique ways to not just the artwork, but also the packaging, especially Slow Decay. Was the first time I kind of did something that wasn't just an album layout, like vinyl, but like a whole project where I was doing the 7-inch vinyls and like the Slow Decay thing, and was like kind of art director in charge of most of the project. And for me, that was kind of a really good experience because it kind of gave the film that I have power as the artist to execute projects, and so that's kind of what I look for nowadays is projects where I'm able to do like a lot of the art direction and a lot of like more of just the artwork and stuff. So yeah, so that was a really fun collaboration. Lorna Shore, back when I used to work with them, a lot of their ideas were a lot of fun. Work with because they had a lot of things that were kind of outside of what I usually would do. So
yeah,
you kind of interesting push to do something that wasn't usually something I would do.
First time I ever heard them was you posted the artwork with the it was like a little like runic sculpture thing, like this made out of sticks. What would you call that thing?
Oh, Immortal cover?
Sorry?
Or was it the Immortal cover?
Oh, I can't remember, but the artwork was so sick. I went and checked out the bands, basically.
Yeah. I think that, the Immortal one. Yeah, that's the only cover. Yeah, it's definitely a favorite. Fan favorite too. I get a lot of references about that cover. So.
Nice. So do you find that a lot? Like, you've obviously gotten to the stage that people are coming to you for Caelan. Like, when a client wants you to do something, they'll send you your work?
Yeah, sometimes. Usually, I'll just kind of ask for the general concept and stuff. But yeah, I get, especially for logo work, I get a lot of bands like sending me the Lord of Shore logo, and they're like, yeah, we want the Lord of Shore logo, or like stuff like that.
Yeah. How do you let them down lightly? I was like, I'm not copying that logo.
Right? Yeah. No. Usually, I'm like, yeah, you guys, I'll do something different.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I do get. I feel like I mean, I hope nowadays there's a lot of people come to me for my style. So yeah, I mean, I try to push it in all the directions I go, merch, logos. So
that's so cool what you're saying about the Slow Decay stuff, like the scope of that project. Like, do you feel that you were like, okay, this is what I want to do going forward, kind of thing? Was that kind of like a landmark moment, been like, as you said, the art director, not just slapping out like one album cover and that's it kind of thing? Do you find like that's in an ideal world, would every project have that scope?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays I'm getting a lot more projects that have a larger scope like that. I mean, especially with my work unique leader, because I'm in charge of like product management and as art director. So if I do the cover, I'd be doing the vinyl, the merch designs, and everything that goes in the release. But yeah, Slow Decay was definitely the first project I had like that for such a big scale. It was with a big record label, Rise Records. Yeah, and instead, a lot of things in motion for me. It kind of really sort of developed my sort of technique and style and what I want to do now. So yeah,
nice.
It's definitely a landmark. Yeah.
Hell yeah. And what a record that is, or what artwork it is. It's one of my favorites of yours. So would you have any advice off the cuff to give, say, aspiring heavy metal graphic designers and illustrators who are just sort of starting a journey? Like, what skills or qualities do you believe are successful in this field? I know we sort of touched on like we kind of have to be our own marketer and blah, blah, blah. But what do you reckon are like must-dos, like really good qualities to have?
So I do highly recommend, so if you're going into like illustration or painting or whatever, I highly recommend that you learn the basics. Start with traditional. Don't do what I did, where I learned, try to copy like what I wanted to do, like old master things, stuff like through photo bashing, which is a way to go about it. But if you really want like to learn what you're doing, make sure that you start with the basics. There's plenty of like tutorials and stuff out there that are really great. Let's start, paid and unpaid. So yes, really learn your medium, learn what you're doing. Also make sure that this is what you want to do. And like I know a lot of people who are like, yeah, I really want to get into like what you're doing. I really want to like start making covers like this. And I'm like, yeah, you should definitely do it, but make sure that you really want to do that. You have to learn to love the process, because it's pretty shitty. Like it's a shitty process. I mean, it's fun.
Grinding.
And, like, yeah, you have to grind a lot. Like you have to deal with a lot of shitty clients. You have to deal with a lot of like, crappy like interactions and yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing is just learn to love the process. Learn, make sure you have a goal. Make sure that you know where you want to go with it, and because otherwise you're going to get burnt out immediately. Not going to want to do it. And kind of and sort of also just finding your niche, how to figure out where you want to work in. Like if you want to get into like death metal or whatever, figure out like the death metal niche, figure out which bands you want to work with. If you want to go to deathcore, figure out also understand what the trends are, and figure out how you kind of fit into that trend. If your style fits into the death metal genre, if it fits into the black metal genre, or even if it doesn't fit into any of those, kind of figure out a niche you want to work in and making it work for that niche, or making that niche work. So yeah. So I mean, those are definitely things. Love the process. Learn the basics and kind of figure out your niche and kind of that. So.
Do you find like you're talking about like finding your particular lifestyle and niche? Not only saying like if you want to do album art, don't just do that. Also offer like merch design. Also offer logos. Offer like layout. That kind of thing.
If you want to kill yourself, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I feel you.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of how I did my thing. Like I offered like everything that a band would need to get their start.
Yeah, same.
I kind of sort of like built it into my whole thing about working on projects. Where like now I can focus like, I'm gonna, if you want to work with me, on a project, I can provide you the logos, I can provide you the first size. Nowadays, I'm starting to feel a little more that the way the industry is, and way like the algorithms and stuff are, is kind of focusing on one thing. Like I also have ADD, so like being able to have like multiple mediums and stuff kind of just works.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, it is also just like each person's individual journey, but I would say like, kind of focus on doing like, you want to do artwork, focus on artwork, get really good at artwork, make sure that you know everything about what goes into making an album cover, what goes into making a painting, and push that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Also, I think we both have graphic design backgrounds, and graphic designers, you kind of work in many different mediums, so like you do logo type, you packaging, graphic design, branding, all that stuff. So for us, it's a little bit different. So like, yeah, if you're a graphic designer, I would say, do merch designs, do logos, do album covers. If you're more want to do like an artistic sort of sense, maybe focus more on the covers and merch designs,
Yeah. So it's like, you reckon like, really finds like your cup of tea, as we say here in Ireland, even though I'm in Sweden, but Irish people say that. Find your cup of tea and get like really, really good at that. Nice. Get really good at that. And then once you've got like a good handle on it, like maybe you can start to think about going for the other things. Like, like, okay, I've got a handle on my album artwork and now I'll dip the toe into logo design on the side. Or as you said, maybe if like someone comes to you, say you're like a starting out kind of designer and your album art is your thing, maybe offer like to a client like, okay, yeah, if you need a logo to go with the artwork, that will suit the artwork, like we can do that, and just kind of build forward from there. Like is that the kind of vibe?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like in some ways I kind of wish like I just focused on artwork personally. Like I just been like, I just want paintings or whatever. But I'm kind of at the point where like I do all these things. I'm, well known for doing multiple things. I also just need the money because, like,
at the end of the day, yeah, as we said, the bills stay the same.
Exactly. So yeah. So I mean, like, definitely experiment, kind of figure out, like, do logos, do artwork if you're starting out, and figure out what you like doing, and then just be like, this works for me. I don't really want to do logos. I'm really interested in typography and want to focus on that, or I'm really into painting, or whatever it is. And because, like, I feel like if you're trying to learn like 20 different things all at once, you're going to be like,
bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
You become a jack of all trades, then master of none kind of thing. Yeah. Because I find, like, I 100% coming in, like, out of college, I went into I was working in, like, an engineering firm, putting together brochures, just like the most mindless corporate boring style. But the whole time I was doing work within the hardcore scene and the metal scene and stuff, and sort of like I was touring in a band a lot as well, like, and built it up that way. But when I went freelance, I was still doing all of those things, and I've so many people that come to me for logos, but, like, literally all I kind of want to do now is, like, just artworking, because it's so much more fun. It doesn't take me as long, like, it flows a lot more. But I still have, like, I'd say 50% of my clients come to me for logo work, and, like, I can't turn them down. If I like the idea of the logo, like, of course I'm going to do it, because I gotta pay the tax man, like. But I in an ideal world, like, that's kind of where I'm going now. I just really sort of want to just focus on the artwork and side of things. I know I probably never will be able to, but that's sort of what I want to specialize in, like, slowly but surely. Who knows what the future will kind of hold. But yeah, like, going back to what we were saying about, burning yourself out and stuff, I think a lot of it was that, like, I would spend a morning, like, working on, say, like, a merch design, and then go for lunch, then come back in the afternoon. I'd, like, work on a logo, then maybe I'd, like, do a little bit of, like, layout work, and then in the evening after work I'll be, like, editing away, or, like, voiceover and things, you know what I mean? And it's never ending, but it's kind of part of the path we chose, isn't it? You gotta do it, like.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, what kind of helped me was, I was like, okay, I'm doing like 20 different things, but what can I unify them all under? For me,
of course,
like, just unify them under, like, one theme.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, I'm gonna do, like, kind of deep. So for, like, logos, I'm like, I'm gonna do, like, Gothic style, like, sort of arcane, sigils and stuff, which then also tie back to my other work. I use a lot of sigil work in my, like, artwork and like a lot of, like, symbolic stuff. For me, it was like, all right, I'm doing, like, I not as much jack of all trades now. I'm just like, an artist who works in different mediums, but still has, like, it's my voice and all those different mediums.
Yeah, it's still got the same soul to it. Like, like, I know exactly what you mean when I see your work. Like, if I went through your archive on your website and looked through, like, your merch designs and, like, your sigil work and logo work, and I totally get what you mean. Like, it's all thematically quite similar. Well, thematically, like, quite different, but like, yeah, you're right. Like, it's got the same vibe. It's got the same sort of. It's like you can very clearly see it's come from your hand, if you get me.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, that's something you kind of do when you start out doing freelance, is that, you kind of take on all projects, and you kind of form yourself to that project. And if me, I did, after, like, kind of getting burnt out on that, I was like, I don't want to form myself to these projects anymore. I'll just do, like, what I want. And, like, I mean, I still do have to do that, like, unique leader. I'll have to work in different sort of styles and, workflow, because you have such a wide variety of bands that can't just do, dark art all the time. But yeah, I mean, like, also having ADD is a big part of it. I mean, kind of just, being like not able to focus on one thing, or being able to focus on one thing, but then being like, oh, okay, I also want to do, like, these 20 different things too, is a big part. So I don't know. Once again, it all kind of sort of depends on your own artistic journey. If you want to do, like, everything, sure, go ahead, try it. Figure out what works for you. If you want to kind of figure out your niche, and then focus on that. But yeah, I mean, I know that kind of contradicts what I just said previously, but
no, I totally understand. I totally understand, because at the end of the day, it's like you're better off finding like the modus operandi that like really suits yourself, aren't you? At the end of the day, like.
Yeah.
Well, just to finish off, I've got one final question. It's just, can you share maybe like a personal anecdote or a valuable lesson you've learned throughout your career? This could be like a bad thing, a good thing, you know, like just something that made you stop and go, oh God, like here we are, you know?
This kind of ties back into a lot of what I've been talking about previously, but I think that a huge learning lesson for me was this previous year. I had a long time client. I don't want to say who, but so some people might be able to figure it out. But long time client I've worked with since I kind of started out. That just really, I kind of formed myself, like I said, to their sort of like what they wanted in their workflow, whatever they were asking for, and then I had an incident with them where the project that we worked on didn't go well. And instead of being like, them being like, okay, we'll, it was like a last minute thing, it was like a whole thing that happened. But instead of the, sort of band being like, okay, this is what it is, whatever, they blame me for it. And then a whole incident came out of it where basically I had a huge falling out with the client. And after that point, I was like, I actually was gonna quit. Like I'm done.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to work in this industry anymore. Like this is how I'm going to get treated by people that I've respected and worked for years.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like I figured out a lot of ways to sort of protect myself from that. Biggest part was developing my own style. Making sure that I'm working for myself. I'm not working. Obviously, as a freelancer, you are working for other people, but making sure that you're still doing it for you. Kind of remembering why you're doing it, why you want to do it, how you got there. So that was the biggest learning lesson for me. Was just kind of like being like, I gotta do this for me. I can't just do this for can't be an AI generator. I can't just be like crap it out whatever anything once. I gotta figure out my thing. So that was the biggest learning lesson.
Jesus, yeah. Like it's like you have to really look after yourself at the end of the day, don't you? I think that's kind of a lot of what we've spoken about here. It's like, don't let yourself get walked over. Be true to yourself. Be true to your style. Like really look after yourself, because you can get some people that'll throw you under the bus quick enough, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Especially the music industry. It's a very
it's cutthroat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people who and the good thing about the industry that we work with, death metal, hardcore, a lot of that is that most people are actually pretty cool. And like kind of like a big family. So yeah.
Well, thank you very much, dude. That is the end of my list here. It's been absolutely fascinating talking to you. Guys, make sure you go down and check out Caelan's links. They'll be on screen. Check out his website, his portfolio. Give him a shout if you want work. Is there anything you'd like to plug before we go, Caelan?
No, I mean, I'm if you want to check out my Patreon, I have behind the scenes like sort of process stuff you can check out and like exclusive content.
Sick.
And my links to stuff will be below.
Oh, and your print store as well. You got some new prints in there, do you? Oh yeah, I was having a little look see in there, like.
Yeah, feed me my cat.
Oh yeah, you got a cat too, do you?
Yeah, she's sleeping over there on the couch.
Nice. I've got two little bastards. They rule the house. Yeah. Well, dude, I really appreciate you taking the time to come and chat to us today. I'm sure like the subs that'll be watching this are gonna get loads of value out of the wisdom that you've imparted to it. So I can't thank you enough. And it's been so good to talk after following your work for such a long time, mate. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.